September 27th, 1942, 4:30 a.m., Stalingrad. You're standing in the ruins of what used to be an apartment building. The walls are pockmarked with bullet holes. The windows are blown out. Bodies, German and Soviet, litter the street outside. Your name is Yakov Pavlov. You're 25 years old. You're a sergeant in the Red Army's 13th Guards Rifle Division. And you've just been given the most insane order of your military career. Take that building. Hold it. The building is 4 stories tall. It sits on a strategic corner overlooking 9th January Square in the center of Stalingrad. Whoever controls that building controls the square. Whoever controls the square controls the supply routes. The Germans want it. You're going to take it from them. You have 3 men with you. Not 30. Not 300. 3. The building is held by approximately 40 German soldiers who've fortified it with machine gun nests, sandbags, and artillery support. Your commander looks at you and says, if you take that building, reinforcements will come. Maybe, that's it. That's the plan. 4 Soviet soldiers versus 40 Germans. And maybe you'll get help later. In 58 days, German commanders will throw entire battalions at this building. They'll use tanks, artillery, airstrikes, flamethrowers, and wave after wave of infantry. They'll lose hundreds of men trying to take one 4-story apartment building. They'll fail. This is the story of Pavlov's house, the most defended building in human history. A place where 5 men held off an army, where one apartment building became a fortress that stopped the Wehrmacht dead. By the time it's over, German officers will write in their reports, it is easier to capture a city than to capture this one building. Stalingrad was hell, but Pavlov's house was the center of that hell. And somehow, impossibly, it never fell. September 13th, 1942. 2 weeks earlier, Stalingrad is dying. For 3 weeks, the German 6th Army under General Friedrich Paulus has been grinding through the city block by block. The Luftwaffe bombs during the day, artillery pounds at night. German infantry push forward in coordinated assaults, clearing buildings with grenades and flamethrowers. The Red Army is losing, badly. General Vasily Chuikov commands the 62nd Army, what's left of it. He's lost 80% of his forces. His men are exhausted, low on ammunition, and surrounded on 3 sides. The Volga River is at their backs. If they retreat across the river, Stalingrad falls. If they stay, they die. But Stalin has issued Order Number 2227, not 1 step back. Any soldier who retreats will be shot by his own side. Any commander who orders retreat will be executed. So Chuikov makes a decision. If we can't retreat and we can't win through conventional tactics, we'll make them bleed for every meter. He creates a new doctrine, urban warfare. Not field battles, not tank engagements. Building to building, room to room fighting where German advantages, air power, artillery, tanks, are neutralized. He tells his officers, hug the enemy. Stay so close to German positions that they can't use artillery without hitting their own men. Turn every building into a fortress. Make them pay in blood for every floor, every room, every staircase. This doctrine will define the Battle of Stalingrad, and Pavlov's house will become its perfect symbol. September 27th, 1942. Dawn. Sergeant Yakov Pavlov doesn't know he's about to become a legend. He's just trying not to die. His reconnaissance team, himself and 3 privates, has been ordered to scout a 4-story apartment building near 9th January Square. German forces occupy it. Soviet command wants to know how many Germans, what weapons, and whether the building can be taken. Pavlov approaches from the east, using rubble for cover. The building is maybe 200 meters away. German machine gun fire sweeps the street. Bodies everywhere. Soviet soldiers from previous failed assaults. He watches the building. Counts muzzle flashes. Estimates 15 to 20 Germans on the ground floor. Unknown numbers above. His commander radios. Can you take it? Pavlov looks at his 3 men. Looks at the building. Does the math? Yes, he lies. Then take it. Reinforcements will follow. Pavlov knows what reinforcements will follow means in Stalingrad. It means maybe. It means if we don't all die first. It means good luck. He turns to his men. We're going in. Fast, low, don't stop moving. If you stop, you're dead. They wait for a break in the machine gun fire. Then they run. The assault takes 12 minutes. Pavlov leads. His men follow. They zigzag through rubble, using shell craters for cover. Machine gun fire kicks up dirt around them. One man is hit in the leg. Flesh wound. He keeps moving. They reach the building's east wall. German voices inside, shouting. Pavlov pulls a grenade. On 3, 1, 2, 3. He throws the grenade through a ground floor window. Explosion. Screaming. His men rush the door. Inside is chaos, smoke, dust. Germans disoriented from the blast. Pavlov's team fires on automatic. Short bursts. Controlled. Germans full, room-to-room clearing. 4 Soviets versus 20 Germans in close quarters. The advantage goes to whoever's faster, more aggressive, more desperate. Pavlov is all 3. His men move like wolves. 1 provides cover, 2 advance, clear the room, leapfrog forward. German soldiers are trained for open warfare, not this close-quarters brutality. Some surrender. Most die. 12 minutes later, the ground floor is clear. 15 German bodies. 3 Soviet wounded, none critically. Pavlov radios his commander. Building taken. Holding ground floor. Requesting reinforcements. The response, hold position. Reinforcements coming. Pavlov looks at his men. 3 soldiers, wounded, low on ammunition. And the Germans are going to counterattack. Soon. Find defensive positions. Barricade the entrances. We hold until help arrives. They don't know it yet, but help won't arrive for 24 hours, and the Germans will counterattack in 30 minutes. 10 a.m., the first counterattack. German forces nearby hear the gunfire. A platoon, maybe 30 men, is redirected to retake the building. They approach from the west, where Pavlov's team has no line of sight. Smart tactics. Pavlov hears boots on the street. German voices coordinating. He's on the 2nd floor now, better vantage point. He peers through a window. 30 Germans. Approaching in formation. They're going to storm the building with overwhelming force. Pavlov has 3 men. Maybe 60 rounds of ammunition total. 2 grenades left. He makes a decision. Don't fire until they're inside the building. Let them come to us. It's a gamble. If they use grenades first, Pavlov's team is dead. But if they enter the building thinking it's lightly defended, they'll bunch up in the doorways and stairwells, and bunched up soldiers are easy targets. The Germans reach the entrance. Kick down the door. Pour inside. Pavlov waits.
5 Germans in 10-15, now!
His team opens fire from the stairwell above. Automatic bursts into the packed entryway. Germans can't maneuver, can't retreat. Can't return effective fire, it's a slaughter. 20 Germans die in 30 seconds. The survivors retreat, dragging wounded. Pavlov's team reloads. Checks ammunition. They're down to maybe 30 rounds. Next time they come, we're out of bullets, one soldier says. Pavlov nods. Then we use bayonets. He's not joking. PM, reinforcements arrive. Lieutenant Ivan Afanasyev leads a squad of 21 soldiers across the exposed street to Pavlov's position. They bring ammunition, grenades, a Maxim heavy machine gun, and food. 21 soldiers out of 50 who started the crossing. The other 29 were killed by German machine gun fire on the way over. But now Pavlov has 25 men. A machine gun and ammunition. Afanasyev, technically the senior officer, makes a decision. Sergeant Pavlov, you took this building. You know its layout. You're in command. I'll support you. It's unusual. An officer deferring to a sergeant, but smart. Pavlov has already proven he can hold this position. Pavlov accepts. We fortify every floor. Interlocking fields of fire. The Germans will come again, probably with tanks. They work through the night, smashing holes through walls to create interior passages so they can move between rooms without exposing themselves to sniper fire, setting up firing positions in every window, hauling rubble to create barricades. By dawn, Pavlov's house is no longer an apartment building. It's a fortress. September 28th. The Germans realize their mistake. German reconnaissance reports back. The building at 9th January Square is now held by Soviet forces in significant strength. Estimated 25 to 30 soldiers. Machine gun positions. Fortified. General Paulus reviews the report. He knows this building is critical. It overlooks supply routes. It provides observation of German positions. It's a thorn in the side of his entire offensive. Take it, he orders. Use whatever force necessary. What follows is 58 days of the most intense urban warfare in history. The Germans throw everything at Pavlov's house. Infantry assaults, daily. Sometimes hourly tank attacks, 12 major assaults, artillery bombardment, constant air strikes. Stukas dive-bombing the building flamethrowers, trying to burn them out, and the building doesn't fall. October 3rd. The first tank, assault. 3 Panzer IV tanks.
Roll up the street toward Pavlov's house. Infantry.
Follows, maybe 60 Germans. Moving under tank cover. Pavlov watches from the 3rd floor. His men are positioned at every window, but they know rifles won't stop tanks. That's where the PTRD anti-tank rifles come in. The PTRD is a Soviet anti-tank rifle. 14.5 bolt action, fires armor-piercing rounds. It's designed to penetrate light armor at close range. Effective range, 100 meters. Pavlov has 3 of them. Hold fire until they're at 50 meters, he orders. The tanks advance.
50 meters, 40, fire!
3 PTRD rifles fire simultaneously. Armor-piercing rounds punch through the lead tank's side armor. The tank brews up, ammunition cooking off, smoke pouring out. The crew bails. The other 2 tanks halt. Fire their main guns at the building. The explosions are deafening. Walls collapse. But the building structure holds. German infantry advance, using the tanks for cover. Now Pavlov's machine gunners open up. The Maxim heavy machine gun spits 600 rounds per minute. German infantry goes down like wheat before a scythe. The tanks retreat. The infantry retreats. First tank assault, repelled. There will be 11 more. October 15th. Life inside Pavlov's house. 25 men living in a 4-story building under constant attack. This is their reality. No running water. They collect rainwater in helmets. No electricity. They fight in darkness at night. No medical supplies beyond basic first aid. Wounded men either recover or die. Food comes sporadically, when Soviet forces can get supplies across the Volga under cover of darkness. Sometimes they go 3 days without food, sleep in shifts. Always someone on watch. German attacks come at any hour. The smell is unbearable. Bodies decomposing in the rubble outside. Unwashed men. Blood. Smoke. But they develop routines, rituals, small things that keep them human. Pavlov insists on shaving every morning. Even without water, he dry shaves with a dull razor. If we look like soldiers, we act like soldiers, he says. One soldier, Private Glushchenko, is a crack shot with the Mosin Nagant rifle. He sets up on the roof, picks off German soldiers at 400 meters. By the end of 58 days, he'll have 40+ confirmed kills. Another soldier finds a harmonica in the rubble, plays it at night. German soldiers across the street can hear it. It's surreal. A harmonica playing Soviet folk songs while artillery pounds the city. And in the basement, 30 Soviet civilians are hiding. Families who couldn't evacuate. They've been trapped here since the battle started. Pavlov's men share their rations with the civilians. Protect them. One soldier, Afanasyev, teaches a little girl how to read, using scraps of paper and charcoal. This is war. But it's also humanity. Small moments of grace in hell. October 27th, the breaking point, a month into the siege. Pavlov's men are exhausted, running low on everything. Ammunition, food, morale, a massive German assault, 6 tanks, 200 infantry, artillery support. The building shakes from explosions. Walls collapse. The 2nd floor is on fire. Pavlov's machine gunner is killed. 3 men wounded. They're down to 18 effective soldiers. The Germans breach the ground floor. Hand-to-hand fighting in the stairwell. Bayonets, entrenching tools, fists. Pavlov fights with a captured German MP-40 submachine gun. Empties the magazine. Reloads. Empties it again. For 6 hours, the battle rages inside the building. Room to room. Floor to floor. Then the Germans retreat. Pavlov stands in the ruins of what used to be the lobby. Bodies everywhere. His men are slumped against walls, bleeding, gasping. One soldier asks, "How much longer?" Pavlov has no answer. But that night, Soviet artillery across the Volga opens up a barrage on German positions. It's coordinated to support Pavlov's house. General Chuikov personally ordered it. It's a message. You're not alone. We see you. Hold on. Pavlov's men hear the artillery, and they find the strength to keep fighting. November 3rd, 1942. Day 37. A German officer, Hauptmann Friedrich Weber, writes in his diary. This diary will be captured by Soviet forces 3 months later. His entry for November 3rd reads, "We have taken this God-forsaken city block by block, building by building, room by room. Every street costs us 50 men. Every building costs us 100. But there is one building, one cursed building that we cannot take. It sits there, mocking us. We've thrown 3 companies at it. We've used tanks, artillery, everything. And it still stands. The men are calling it the fortress. I call it our shame. German commanders are baffled. How can 25 Soviet soldiers hold one building against an entire army? The answer is in the tactics. Pavlov has turned the building into a maze. Every room is connected to every other room through holes smashed in the walls. You can move from the first floor to the 4th without ever using the stairs, which are exposed to German fire. Every window is a firing position. But they never fire from the same window twice in a row. Shoot, move, shoot again from a different position. Germans can't pinpoint where fire is coming from. The heavy machine gun is mounted on a wooden platform that can be moved between floors. Shoot from the 3rd floor, disassemble, carry to the 1st floor, reassemble, shoot. The Germans think there are multiple machine guns. There's only one. Anti-tank rifles are positioned to cover all approaches. Tanks can't get close without being hit. And at close range, even heavy German armor is vulnerable to 14.5 meters armor-piercing rounds. Most importantly, morale. Pavlov doesn't rule through fear. He fights alongside his men. When food is scarce, he eats last. When positions are dangerous, he takes them himself. His men see this. They trust him. They'll follow him into hell, which is exactly where they are. November 8th. The psychological war. The Germans try something new. Propaganda. Loudspeakers set up across the street broadcast messages in Russian. Soviet soldiers, you are surrounded. Your situation is hopeless. Surrender now, and you will be treated fairly under the Geneva Convention. Continue fighting and you will die. The broadcasts play for hours. Over and over, Pavlov's men listen. Some laugh. Some ignore it. One soldier, Private Chernigolov, shouts back, "Come and get us, fascists!" But one man is affected. His name doesn't appear in records. Soviet reports only note one deserter. He's 19 years old. He's been in the building for 38 days. He hasn't slept more than 2 hours at a time. He's seen 12 of his friends die. Late that night, he climbs down from a 3rd-floor window and tries to reach German lines with a white cloth tied to his rifle. German soldiers shoot him before he gets 20 meters. They don't know he's surrendering. In Stalingrad, you shoot anything that moves. The next morning, his body is still there. Pavlov's men can see it from the windows. Pavlov gathers his men. That could be any of us. This is what surrender looks like. The Germans aren't taking prisoners, not here, not now. We fight or we die. Those are the only options, he pauses. But I'll tell you this. If we're going to die, we're taking a lot of Germans with us. Make every bullet count. Make every day cost them. And maybe we make it out of this alive. It's not an inspiring speech. It's not about glory or patriotism. It's about spite. About making the enemy pay. And in Stalingrad, spite is enough. November 12th. The sniper duel. Private Ivan Glushchenko, the crack shot who operates from the roof, has killed 43 Germans over 6 weeks. He's become a problem for German command. They send a sniper to hunt him. His name is Heinz Thorwald. He's a German sniper with 68 confirmed kills on the Eastern Front. He's been flown in specifically to kill Glushchenko. For 3 days, they hunt each other. Thorwald sets up in the ruins of a building 300 meters west. Glushchenko knows he's there. He's seen the muzzle flash, but can't get a clear shot. It becomes a game of patience. Who will make the first mistake? On the 3rd day, Glushchenko uses a decoy, a Soviet helmet on a stick, raised slowly above the roofline. Crack. A bullet punches through the helmet. Glushchenko marks the muzzle flash. Calculates wind, distance, drop. He waits. 20 minutes. 30. His finger on the trigger, barely breathing. A glint of light. Reflection off a scope lens. Just for a second, Glushchenko fires, 800 meters away. Heinz Thorwald slumps over his rifle. Dead. Single headshot. Soviet command will later credit Glushchenko with saving dozens of lives. Every German he killed was one less soldier attacking Pavlov's house, but Glushchenko never talks about it. After the war, journalists ask him about the sniper duel. He refuses to discuss it. "I was just doing my job," he says, "and my job was killing people." There's nothing heroic about that. November 18th, day 52. The civilians. In the basement of Pavlov's house, 32 civilians have been living for nearly 2 months. Men, women, children. Some elderly. Some injured. They have almost no food. Water is scarce. Disease is spreading. Dysentery, typhus. 2 elderly people have died. Their bodies are in a corner of the basement, covered with rubble. There's no way to bury them. Pavlov's soldiers share what little food they have. But it's not enough. A 7-year-old girl, her name is Katya, is starving. Her mother died 3 weeks ago from shrapnel wounds. She hasn't spoken since. Private Afanasyev, the one who's been teaching her to read, gives her his entire ration, a piece of black bread and a small tin of meat. It's all he has for the day. Pavlov sees this. Afanasyev, you need to eat. She needs it more, Comrade Sergeant. Pavlov doesn't argue. He knows Afanasyev is right. He knows all his men are making similar sacrifices. That night, Pavlov radios Soviet command across the Volga, requesting civilian evacuation. 32 non-combatants, women and children. They're dying down here, the response. Negative. No boats available. All resources committed to military supply. Civilians must remain. Pavlov stares at the radio. He wants to scream. He wants to argue. But he knows it won't matter. He goes down to the basement, looks at the civilians huddled in the darkness, looks at Katya, who's clutching the piece of bread like it's treasure. We'll get you out, he tells them. I promise. He has no idea how he'll keep that promise. But he makes it anyway. November 20th. Operation Uranus begins, unbeknownst. To the Germans, and even to Pavlov, the Soviet High Command has been planning a massive counteroffensive for months. Operation Uranus, a double envelopment. Soviet forces will attack from the north and south, encircling the entire German 6th Army in Stalingrad. On November 20th, it begins. Massive Soviet artillery barrage. Then tank attacks. Romanian positions to the north collapse. German reserves are rushed to contain the breakthrough. But it's too late. Within 4 days, the entire German 6th Army, 300,000 men, including all the forces attacking Pavlov's house, is surrounded. Now the hunters become the hunted. German attacks on Pavlov's house decrease. Not because they've given up, but because they're running out of men, ammunition, and time. Pavlov doesn't know the bigger picture. All he knows is that for the first time in 54 days, the Germans aren't attacking constantly. Something's changed, he tells his men. I don't know what. But something's different. November 23rd. The last major assault. The Germans make one final push to take Pavlov's house before they're fully encircled. 8 tanks.
300 infantry.
Supported by Stuka dive bombers, it's everything they have left in the sector. Pavlov has 15 men left standing. The rest are wounded or dead. Ammunition is critically low. They've been rationing bullets for days. This might be it, Pavlov tells his men. If they take the ground floor, we retreat to the second. If they take the second, we go to the third. If they take the third, we fight from the roof. And if they take the roof, we take as many of them with us as we can. His men nod. They've made peace with death weeks ago. The assault begins. Stukas scream down from the sky. Bombs shake the building. The entire western wall collapses. The 4th floor is gone. Just rubble now. Tanks roll forward. Anti-tank rifles fire. 2 tanks disabled. But 6 keep coming. Infantry swarms the building. Hundreds of them. They're desperate. This is their last chance. Pavlov's men fire until their guns run dry. Then they use grenades. Then bayonets. Then fists. The fighting is apocalyptic. Every room is contested. Every staircase is a killing ground. At one point, Pavlov is fighting 3 Germans simultaneously in a hallway. He's out of ammunition. He uses his rifle as a club, breaks it over one German's skull, wrestles another to the ground. The 3rd German is about to bayonet him when Private Glushchenko shoots the German from 10 feet away. For 6 hours, the battle rages. Then, suddenly, it stops. The Germans retreat. Not because they've been defeated. They actually control the 1st floor now. But because new orders came through, all forces are to pull back and consolidate for defense. The encirclement is complete. Pavlov's men retake the 1st floor. The Germans don't come back. After 56 days, the siege of Pavlov's house is effectively over. November 25th. The aftermath. Pavlov walks through the building. It's barely standing. The 4th floor is gone. The 3rd floor is half collapsed. Walls are perforated. The floors are covered with brass casings, blood, and rubble. Of the 25 men who held this building, 11 are still alive. 14 died over 58 days. Pavlov does the math. That's a 56% casualty rate. In conventional warfare, a unit with 30% casualties is considered combat ineffective and withdrawn. His unit took 56% casualties and held. In the basement, the 32 civilians are still alive, barely, malnourished, sick, traumatized, but alive. On November 26th, Soviet boats finally evacuate them across the Volga. Pavlov watches them go. Katya, the 7-year-old girl, waves at him from the boat. He waves back. He wonders if she'll remember this. He wonders if any of them will. December 1942, January 1943, the German collapse. The encircled German 6th Army tries to break out. They fail. Hitler orders them to hold Stalingrad and wait for relief. Relief never comes. German soldiers begin starving, then freezing, then dying by the thousands. By January, it's clear. Germany has lost the Battle of Stalingrad. Pavlov and his men are reassigned to other positions. Pavlov's house is no longer strategically critical. The front lines have moved west, but the building remains standing. A symbol, Soviet propaganda photographs it extensively. Pavlov's house, the fortress that never fell. In February 1943, Field Marshal Paulus surrenders. 91,000 German soldiers are captured. The entire 6th Army is destroyed. It's the turning point of World War II on the Eastern Front. The cost: German losses at Stalingrad. Approximately 500,000 casualties, killed, wounded, captured. Soviet losses: approximately 100,000 casualties. The city of Stalingrad, a city of 400,000 people, is essentially destroyed. 90% of buildings are damaged or destroyed. Thousands of civilians dead. And in the middle of all that destruction, one 4-story apartment building held by 25 men becomes the symbol of Soviet resistance. But here's what the propaganda doesn't show: the psychological cost. The survivors. Yakov Pavlov survives the war. He's awarded the Hero of the Soviet Union Medal, the highest honor. He's promoted to lieutenant. He fights all the way to Berlin. After the war, he becomes a monk, joins the Russian Orthodox Church, takes the name Brother Cyril. He never talks about Stalingrad, never gives interviews, lives quietly in a monastery until his death in 1981 at age 63. Why did a war hero become a monk? His fellow monks say he was seeking forgiveness. Forgiveness for what? They don't know. Pavlov never explained, but you can guess. 58 days of killing takes a toll, even when it's justified, even when it's necessary. The weight of all those deaths, German soldiers, Soviet soldiers, civilians caught in the crossfire, that weight never leaves. Ivan Glushchenko, the sniper with 40-plus kills, suffers from severe PTSD. He has nightmares for decades, sees the faces of the men he killed. He drinks heavily to cope. Dies in 1979 from cirrhosis at age 57. Private Afanasyev, who shared his rations with little Katya, dies in 1947 from complications of typhus, likely contracted in the basement of Pavlov's house. He's 29. Of the 11 survivors, only 3 live past age 60. The rest die from war wounds, disease, or suicide. War doesn't end when the shooting stops. It follows you home. The German perspective. German soldiers who fought at Stalingrad called Pavlov's house das verfluchte Haus, the cursed house. In captured German documents, there are numerous references to it. One report, dated November 10, 1942, the building at grid reference 1432, Pavlov's house, has resisted all attempts at capture. Casualties attempting to take this position exceed 300 KIA and 400 WIA over 6 weeks. Recommend bypassing and isolating rather than continuing direct assault. Another German soldier, in a letter home, intercepted and translated by Soviet intelligence. We lost more men taking that one building than we lost taking entire blocks in Poland. I don't understand how they're holding it. They must have 100 men inside. Or maybe they're not men. Maybe they're demons. They weren't demons. They were 25 exhausted, terrified soldiers who refused to quit. Post-war reconstruction. After the war, Stalingrad is rebuilt. The city is renamed Volgograd in 1961 during de-Stalinization. Pavlov's house is restored, but not as a residence. As a memorial, the exterior is rebuilt to look as it did in 1942, bullet holes, shell damage, and all. A museum on the ground floor displays artifacts, weapons, helmets, photographs, personal effects of the defenders. On one wall, a memorial plaque lists the names of the soldiers who held the building. 11 nationalities represented: Russian, Ukrainian, Georgian, Uzbek, Kazakh, Tajik. The Soviet Union was multi-ethnic, and Pavlov's house defenders reflected that diversity. Every year on November 19th, the anniversary of Operation Uranus, veterans gather at Pavlov's house. In the early years, hundreds attended. By the 1990s, just a handful. By 2010, only 2 original defenders were still alive. The last surviving defender, Viktor Zhukov, died in 2015 at age 93. He'd been 20 years old during the siege. Now they're all gone. But the building remains. 2007, Volgograd, Russia. Pavlov's House Memorial. An elderly German man stands outside the restored building. His name is Werner Hoffmann. He's 84 years old. He was a 19-year-old Panzer Grenadier in the 6th Army in 1942. He fought at Stalingrad. He attacked this building. A Russian tour guide notices him staring at the memorial plaque. "Sir, are you all right?" Hoffmann doesn't respond immediately. He's looking at the names on the wall. 25 Soviet soldiers who defended this building. He's thinking about the 63 men from his company who died trying to take it. Finally, he speaks in broken Russian. "I was here. November 1942. We attacked this building 8 times. Lost so many friends. I was wounded on the 5th attack, shrapnel in my leg. Evacuated before the surrender." The tour guide's expression changes. "You fought here?" "Yes. I was on the wrong side." His voice cracks. "I've lived with that knowledge for 65 years. The tour guide, a woman in her 50s, says quietly, "My grandfather defended this building. He was one of Pavlov's men. He survived but never talked about it. Died when I was 12. They stand in silence. Former enemies, separated by time and a war that ended before either of them was old enough to understand it. I came to apologize," Hoffmann says. "To the building, to the men who died here, to Russia, for what we did," the tour guide nods. "They weren't fighting you personally. You weren't fighting them. You were both just soldiers following orders. The real enemy was war itself. It's a generous interpretation. Maybe too generous. But it's what allows both of them to find peace." Hoffmann places a single flower at the memorial. Then he leaves. He'll die 3 years later, having finally confronted the place that haunted his dreams for 65 years. This happens more than you'd think. German veterans returning to Stalingrad seeking closure, trying to understand how they lost a battle they should have won. The answer is always the same. They were fighting men who couldn't afford to lose. What military historians learned from Pavlov's house. After World War II, military academies worldwide studied the Battle of Stalingrad, and Pavlov's house became a specific case study in urban warfare. Here's what they learned. Vertical defense superiority. Traditional military doctrine said height equals advantage. Whoever controls the high ground wins. Pavlov proved that wrong. His men fought from all floors simultaneously. Germans taking the first floor didn't mean they controlled the building. Pavlov's men would just retreat upstairs, counterattack from above, retake the first floor. The building became a vertical battlefield. Every floor was a fortress. Every staircase was a kill zone. Modern urban warfare doctrine, used in Iraq, Afghanistan. Syria is based partly on lessons from Pavlov's house. Defender's advantage in urban terrain. In open terrain, the attacker chooses when and where to engage. In cities, the defender does. Pavlov knew every room, every hallway, every firing angle. Germans were fighting blind, never sure where fire would come from, never able to establish clear lines of advance. One defender in a building can hold off 10 attackers. Pavlov held off hundreds. The U.S. Marine Corps Urban Warfare Manual, written in 1999, cites Pavlov's house as a key example. Israeli Defense Forces study it. British SAS study it. 65 years after the battle. Soldiers are still learning from Yakov Pavlov. Morale over resources. German forces had better weapons, more ammunition, air support, artillery, tanks. They had every material advantage. They lost. Because Pavlov's men had something the Germans didn't. a reason to fight that transcended self-preservation. They weren't just defending a building. They were defending their homeland, their families, their existence. Surrender meant death anyway, either from German bullets or Soviet execution for desertion. So they fought with the desperation of men who have nothing left to lose. And desperate men are the most dangerous fighters. The Germans were fighting for Hitler's ambitions. Pavlov's men were fighting for survival. Motivation matters more than equipment. The untold story. What happened to little Katya? Remember the 7-year-old girl in the basement? The one Private Afanasyev shared his rations with? The one who waved from the evacuation boat? Her full name was Ekaterina Mikhailovna Kovalkova. She survived the war. Was adopted by distant relatives in Siberia. Grew up. Became a school teacher. Married. Had 3 children. In 1973, a Soviet journalist tracked her down for a human interest story about Stalingrad survivors. She agreed to be interviewed. The journalist asked, "Do you remember Pavlov's house?" Katya, now 38 years old, a grown woman, said, "I remember everything. I remember the darkness, the explosions, being so hungry I thought I would die. And I remember the soldier who gave me his food. Do you remember his name?" "Afanasyev. He taught me to read, used charcoal and scraps of paper. Taught me the alphabet, made me repeat it every day. He said, 'If you can read, you can survive anything.'" I believed him. The journalist informed her that Afanasyev had died in 1947. Katya cried. She'd hoped to thank him, to tell him she became a teacher because of him, to show him that his kindness mattered. "He saved my life twice," she said. "Once by giving me food, once by giving me education. Because after the war, reading was how I escaped the nightmares. Books took me away from Stalingrad." In 2003, Katya died at age 68 from cancer. In her will, she left her savings, not much, maybe $3,000, to establish a scholarship fund for orphaned children in Volgograd. The scholarship is named the Afanasyev Fund. Most recipients have no idea who Afanasyev was. But every year 3 orphans get money for school because one Soviet soldier shared his bread with a starving girl 60 years ago. Small acts of kindness echo through generations. The architectural miracle. Why didn't the building collapse? Engineers have studied Pavlov's house extensively. The building absorbed 2 tank shells, direct hits, 150 plus artillery shells, or E-8 aerial bombs, thousands of machine gun rounds, 12 flamethrower. Attacks, by all engineering calculations, the building should have collapsed. The structural integrity should have been compromised after the 5th tank shell, but it didn't collapse. Why? Theory 1. Soviet construction standards. The building was constructed in 1930s using reinforced concrete, a relatively new technique in Soviet architecture. The concrete was over-engineered, thicker than necessary, with more steel rebar than standard designs. It was built to last a century. It ended up needing to last 58 days under fire. Theory 2. Load distribution. As walls were destroyed, the remaining structure distributed the load. The building essentially became lighter as it was damaged. Less weight meant less stress on the foundation. Theory 3. Luck. Several bombs and shells hit non-load-bearing walls. If they'd hit support columns, the building would have collapsed. Luck matters in war. Theory 4. Repairs. Pavlov's men constantly reinforced the structure. Using rubble, they built internal supports. They shored up weakened walls. They were essentially rebuilding the building as it was being destroyed. It wasn't just defense. It was construction work under fire. The truth is probably a combination of all 4 factors: good initial construction, distributed damage, lucky hits, and desperate repairs. But the result was the same. The building stood, and because the building stood, the men inside survived. What happened to the other defenders, the forgotten 11? History remembers Pavlov. His name is on the building. But 11 other men survived, and most people don't know their names. Alexander Afanasyev, not the same as the one who died in 1947. 2. Different Afanasyevs served at Pavlov's house. Survived the war. Became a factory worker. Died in 1989 from lung cancer. likely caused by smoke inhalation during the battle. Age 69, Ivan Glushchenko, the sniper. We already mentioned him. PTSD, alcoholism, died at 57, Nikolai Chernogolov, survived Stalingrad, but was killed in 1943 during the Battle of Kursk. Age 21, survived the most intense urban combat in history, only to die in a tank battle 6 months later. Anatoly Tkachenko, severely wounded during the defense, left leg amputated, spent the rest of the war in hospitals. After the war, became a schoolteacher, teaching history. Died in 1992, age 73. Taught thousands of students about Stalingrad, but never mentioned he was there. Viktor Zhukov, the last survivor, died 2015. Became a metal worker, married, 5 children. Gave exactly 1 interview in his entire life, in 2010, age 88. When asked what he remembered most about Pavlov's house, he said, "The smell. Cordite, blood, unwashed bodies, death. I can still smell it sometimes." The others. Records are incomplete. Some died in subsequent battles. Some survived the war, but Soviet records are fragmented. Their names are on the memorial, but their stories are lost. 25 men defended the building. 14 died there. 11 survived. Of those 11, most died young. Average age at death, 58 years. War doesn't just kill you in battle. It kills you slowly, over decades. The German casualties. Putting a number to the cost. How many Germans died trying to take Pavlov's house? Official Soviet propaganda says hundreds. German records are incomplete. Individual building-level casualty. Reports weren't kept systematically during Stalingrad, but historians have pieced together estimates. Conservative estimate, 300–400 German casualties, killed and wounded, directly attributable to Pavlov's house attacks. Liberal estimate, 500–600 casualties when including indirect fire, artillery, mortars, aimed at the building that hit nearby German positions. Even using the conservative estimate, 300 German casualties to kill 14 Soviet defenders and fail to take the building. That's a casualty ratio of 21.1 in favor of the defenders. In conventional warfare, attackers need a 3.1 numerical advantage to dislodge defenders. At Pavlov's house, the Germans had a 12.1 numerical advantage and still lost. From a purely mathematical standpoint, Pavlov's house defense is one of the most lopsided defensive victories in military history. The counterfactual. What if the Germans had taken Pavlov's house? Military historians love counterfactuals. What if X hadn't happened? How would history change? So what if the Germans had taken Pavlov's house on September 28, 1942, before Pavlov could fortify it? Best case scenario for Germany, they control the building. Use it as an observation post. Gain better intelligence on Soviet positions. Maybe, this accelerates their capture of central Stalingrad by a week or 2. Does that change the overall battle? Probably not. By November 1942, Germany's strategic situation at Stalingrad was already doomed. The Red Army had built up massive reserves north and south of the city. Operation Uranus was coming regardless of whether Pavlov's house fell, but the symbolic impact would have been catastrophic for Soviet morale. Pavlov's house became a propaganda symbol precisely because it held. Soviet newspapers published stories about the house that never fell. It inspired other Soviet units. It showed that Germans could be stopped. If Pavlov's house had fallen, that symbol would have been the house that fell in 2 days. Morale impact, significant. So did Pavlov's defense change the outcome of World War II? No. Did it change the psychology of the Battle of Stalingrad? Yes. And in war, psychology matters. Modern pilgrimage. What tourists see today. If you visit Volgograd today, Pavlov's house is on every tour itinerary. It's one of the most visited World War II sites in Russia, behind only the Motherland Call statue. What you'll see? The exterior, restored to show battle damage. Bullet holes preserved. One wall intentionally left partially collapsed. It looks like a building that was bombed, which it was. The memorial wall, names of all defenders. 13 Russian names, 4 Ukrainian, 2 Georgian, 1 Uzbek, 1 Kazakh, 1 Tajik, 1 Jewish. The Soviet Union was multi-ethnic, and Pavlov's house defenders represented that diversity. The museum, ground floor. Artifacts recovered from the building. Helmets, rifles, grenades, personal items, a soldier's watch, stopped at 3:47 a.m. or p.m. unknown. Letters home that were never sent. Photos of the defenders. One display shows a comparison. On one side, a single brick from Pavlov's house. On the other side, a German Iron Cross medal. The placard reads, "One brick from this building was worth more than all the medals Germany could offer. The basement, preserved." You can go down there. See where 30 civilians huddled for 58 days. It's dark, cramped, and deeply unsettling. Many visitors leave after 30 seconds. 30 seconds in the basement, where people lived for 2 months. The upper floors, not open to public. Structurally unsafe despite restoration. Thousands of people visit annually. Russian tourists who want to understand their history. German tourists seeking to understand their grandparents' war. Military historians studying urban combat. And veterans, fewer each year, paying respects. One guestbook entry, dated 2012, from a U.S. Marine who'd fought in Fallujah, Iraq. I thought Fallujah was hell. Then I learned about Pavlov's house. 58 days under constant attack. No resupply, no reinforcements, no hope. And they held. I don't know how. Respect from one urban fighter to another? Semper Fi, Sergeant Pavlov. The final question. Was Pavlov a hero or just a survivor? After the war, Soviet propaganda made Pavlov a hero. Posters, newspapers, his face on stamps. Hero of the Soviet Union. But Pavlov himself rejected the label. When he became a monk, he was asked by a fellow monk, "Why did you leave the military?" "You were decorated, respected, could have had a career." Pavlov's response, recorded by the monk, "I am not a hero. Heroes don't survive. The real heroes are the 14 men who died in that building. I just lived longer. There's no virtue in survival, is he right? 14 men died. 11 survived. What's the difference between them? Luck? Skill? Position in the building?" Pavlov was the commander. He made tactical decisions that saved lives. He chose firing positions, allocated resources, maintained morale. His leadership kept more men alive than would have survived otherwise. But he couldn't save everyone. And he carried the guilt of every man who died under his command. That's the burden of leadership. You make decisions that keep some people alive, and other people die because of those same decisions. There's no good answer to whether Pavlov was a hero. He was a man who did his duty in impossible circumstances. Some call that heroism. He called it survival. Maybe both are true. Epilogue. The building that became a symbol. Pavlov's house is not the most important building in World War II. It didn't change the strategic outcome. It's not where the war was won or lost, but it matters because of what it represents. It represents the moment when the unstoppable German military machine met something it couldn't break. Soviet stubbornness that 25 men said no to an entire army. And the army blinked first. That's not about tactics or weapons or numbers. That's about will. The Germans had better training, better equipment, better logistics. They had experience conquering most of Europe. They had momentum, confidence, and belief in their superiority. And they lost to 25 exhausted men in a 4-story apartment building. Because those 25 men had one advantage that outweighed everything else. They couldn't afford to lose. If you're watching this video, here's what you should take away. Pavlov's house wasn't a miracle. It wasn't luck. It wasn't divine intervention. It was 25 men who refused to quit. Who fought when fighting seemed pointless. Who held a building for 58 days because surrendering wasn't an option. 14 of them died doing it. 11 survived but carried the scars forever. Was it worth it? The Germans lost 300+ men trying to take one building. That's 300 German soldiers who couldn't attack other Soviet positions. That's 58 days the German advance was slowed. From a cold, tactical perspective, yes, it was worth it. But tell that to the 14 families who lost sons, brothers, fathers. Tell that to Pavlov, who spent the rest of his life seeking forgiveness for surviving when others didn't. There's no clean answer in war. just hard choices and harder consequences. What we can say is this: Pavlov's house proves that ordinary people can hold the line when extraordinary circumstances demand it. Not forever. Pavlov's men didn't hold for years or even months. Just 58 days, but 58 days was enough. Enough to slow the Germans. Enough to inspire other Soviet units. Enough to become a symbol. 5 Soviet soldiers. Took a building on September 27, 1942. The Germans threw everything they had at it for 58 days. The building never fell. And that's why we still remember it 80 years later. If this story moved you, if it made you think about courage and sacrifice and the cost of survival, share it. Remember the 14 who died, honor the 11 who survived. Visit Pavlov's house if you can, and never forget. Sometimes holding the line is the most heroic thing you can do.